I'm Cowan. I work for MarketImpacts.com. I'm basically an Android developer. And I'm going to talk today about Android market search. So some things in general about the Android market, but focusing more specifically on Android, on the search capability within the Android market. So let's see. So the analysis that we did is based on a lot of data that we collected from the Android market itself, from looking at literally thousands of posts on forum that Android developers participated in, the Google forum itself, and some outside forums. Collected all the data we could, did an analysis, and came to some conclusions that you'll see tonight. So why did we do this? Well, here's what happened. In mid-2011, we were deploying a suite of apps for our company that are ad supported, the Quick Click series of apps, which is basically a front end for Google Maps. And they're focused on a number of niche markets. So there's a lot, you'll see a lot of over there on the right-hand side, golf, restaurants, parking, and so forth. So we were interested in looking at what happens in the Android market in a lot of little slices. At the same time that was going on, lucky us, Google transformed the Android market with a new user interface and changes to their search algorithm and changes to a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So we started scouring the internet, the Google site, anywhere we could to see, well, you know, what's going on here? Why are our apps ending up where they are on search results and so forth? So if I could, I'd like to do a little survey here to see what kind of experiences you've had with the Android market. And so you might be on both sides of this equation. So who can emphasize with Mr. Happy over here on the left? Are there many people that are happy with the new Android market? So there's a few hands going up, you know, a dozen or so hands, and we, frankly, we're one of those. We liked most of what we saw with the new market. So what about the hair puller here? Do we have some hair pullers with the Android market? So there's a few hands. Now there's a lot of hands that didn't go up. Is that because you're just don't care one way or the other, or you haven't paid much attention to the Android market, or you don't have apps on the Android market? For somebody who didn't raise their hand, I'm curious. What can you?
I don't have an app yet.
Okay, if you don't have an app, I can see why you wouldn't care.
In a month, I'll be like
Okay, all right. So fair enough. What you'll see as I go forward here is that there were all kinds of reactions to the Android market. Because people like more maybe to complain when they go on forums and post responses on forums, maybe that's one reason why you would tend to see more of the hair puller than the happy face. But it ran the gamut. So on the positive side, what were some of the observed benefits of the new market? Well, there seems to be less of an impact from keyword spamming. What a lot of developers were doing, understandably, was cramming as many keywords as they could into the descriptions, for the description section for their apps. But what that did is it caused a lot of results to be returned that had really nothing to do with the query that you did. I remember doing a query for one of our apps as fast food, did that, and there's I think it was some kind of a calendar, a pretty girl calendar app, and there was Angelina Jolie, and she popped up. I said, what? So I looked at the description, and I think she had appeared in the movie Fast Food Nation, so that's why she came up on a search for fast food. So it was, the keyword spamming thing was getting out of hand, and the new market seems to deal with that much better. So there were more, generally I would say, more meaningful search results, and people liked all of the new lists that Google has now, the top lists of the top grossing and top free and top this and top that. Now on the other side of the equation, so here were some of the negatives that came up. People could no longer find an app with the app name. So previously, if you keyed in a search first and you used the exact app name, that app would tend to come up at the top of the list. Makes sense, right? Well, they've changed, and for reasons I'll get into a lot of detail about it, but basically they're parsing app names, pulling them apart, and unless you put an app name in quotes in a search, it won't necessarily come up near the top. So as you can imagine, a lot of developers had apps that were doing quite well with a given name, and all of a sudden, their users couldn't find it. There were some complaints about inconsistent and unfair search results rankings. Apps were moving around, so apps that had previously been ranked pretty high were no longer very high. Other apps had moved up, and so understandably, the apps that had moved down, the developers were not happy about that, and in some cases, it really negatively affected their earnings. There are a lot of developers out there who are trying to make a living doing app development. There were complaints about app market bugs. It turned out that a lot of the bugs that people were complaining about weren't really bugs. They were changes to the search algorithm, or they were changes to this, or they were changes to that. But Google wasn't really participating on the forum, so we were left to guess, well, what's a bug? And a lot of developers were screaming bloody murder, fix this bug, fix this bug. And a lot of them turned out to not be bugs. Inconsistent install numbers. The reported installs started moving around. I know Google has made some changes recently to stabilize that. The order of comments. Used to be that user comments were displayed in chronological order, and now they're coming up in non-chronological order. I think Google is trying to do something with, let's call it comment spamming. So they've got some algorithm for figuring out which comments are going to show up toward the top of the comment list. Rapid income development. Oh, requests for more communication. So on the help forum on the Android site, developers were screaming, please Google, what's going on, talk to us, talk to us. They were very sparse with their comments. Eventually, they did make some comments that I'll report on. And well, here they are. So after a couple of months, so the heavy changes started, I think, like July 1st. And there were a few threads on the help forum, one big one that got up to over 1,200 posts on this particular thread. So after a couple of months, Google finally made some comments, and although they were sparse comments, they were very revealing. So one, they said that yes, they're enhancing the market search algorithm, they're making changes, and so developers, when you see things moving around, that's in some part because of the changes we're making. And they did say that their data suggests that it's working well, and that users are able to find their apps quicker and easier. And of course, Google has access to that plethora of data we can't see, and so we'll have to take their word for it. And I believe that's true, that on the whole, it is working better. And then they said, well, some developers have noticed that their apps have moved up or down in the search rankings after these changes. Well, so yeah, it's a competitive landscape, and there's only so much top real estate in search results. And if somebody's moving up, and somebody is moving down, and because they're making changes to the search algorithm, those kinds of changes are taking place. Then they said that the help forum should be focused on user issues, and they closed any issues related to developers. So what they were saying, I get it, it's understandable that they don't want developers complaining on a forum that's really there to help end users. So it's like, guys, don't air your dirty laundry in front of the very customers that we're all trying to attract. And then they said, well, if you have a specific issue with an app, send that to us and we'll communicate with you one-on-one. So, by the way, all these view graphs are up on, if you go to the marketimpacts.com website to the blog, you'll see a blog. I put up a blog entry today, and you can download the view graphs if you want to see them. Now, I have noticed that Google is trying to up their communication level with developers. They're now including these messages in the Android market about some aspects of market change. It would be nice if maybe there were more of those, but it's a start. And also, Eric Chu from the Android developer ecosystem, he did a good presentation at Google I/O this year that I recommend you look at if you're interested in the market. And in that presentation, he focused a lot on what you see on the left-hand side here. So Google now has a lot of lists that show you the top apps in a lot of different categories. So if you're one of the, my estimate, 10,000 or so apps that make it onto one of those lists, then the lists obviously benefit you. It's a good thing. However, the 250,000 apps that don't make it onto a top list are left being found by search. And so the search capability is really important to the majority of Android developers. And this, I'm sure you've all heard of the long tail concept that's really popular now that Amazon.com has talked a lot about, where, and they talk about it in terms of book authors, which I've just in the last few days been reading a number of articles about how self-publishing is taking off, where someone can write a book, or in our case, develop an app that may be out on this long tail somewhere. We're not one of the top apps, but we've got a devoted set of users that are interested in a particular niche, and if they can find us, if they can find the darn thing, we can do pretty well. Now Google also made changes to their search filtering, and on the website they have these selectors that allow some filtering of the search results. On the mobile version, they really don't have those. You can essentially, they have the first one here, type, because you can go into the app section, and if you do a search in the app section, you're only going to get apps. But for example, there's no way to sort by relevance versus popularity. They also introduced this concept of stickiness. So they're not revealing the exact formula they use for stickiness, But they do have now this little chart of how many downloads you've had with your app in the last 30 days. And it only appears on the website version, and it's a relative chart. So the y-axis, the left-hand scale there, is relative, so that one of these charts for an app that has millions of downloads might look the same as an app that has only hundreds of downloads. And what they're trying to measure with this is, how are you trending? How popular are you recently? Are the number of downloads you're getting, on the upswing or on the downswing? So the stickiness concept is, well, people download you, but then what? Are they continuing to use you, or are they uninstalling you? And this chart is a way to try to measure that. Now, uninstalls are now accounted for more accurately. So apparently in the past, it was more like downloads were just building up. So you had developers that would have apps that would get this constant progression of reported installs, but they weren't accurately accounting for uninstalls. So this summer, they made this kind of almost overnight adjustment to account for uninstalls, and so that negatively impacted some developers who overnight saw their install numbers shift downward. There are also changes in how keywords are handled. So on the lower right here, you see previously there was more emphasis on keywords in the description, and it caused this keyword spamming problem where the description can be quite long. So there's plenty of room to shove, every keyword you can think of in there. So it looks like what they did is they said, well, we've got the app name, and we've got the first sentence or two of the app, and that's a limited space. So developers are really going to have to declare what they're all about in that limited space, and they're not going to be able to do keyword spamming there. So we're going to start emphasizing the name and the first sentence or two in the description. And at the same time, they started to pull apart the search terms, or the name of the app, parse it, and try to make meaningful words out of the app name. So if you have an app name that really doesn't mean anything in real English, but it's a composite of a couple of words, they'll pull that apart and try to make sense out of that, and your app might not show up anywhere. So if you want to find an app, as I said before, with a specific name, you have to put it in quotes. And then to counter this parsing and the way they're handling the app name today, if you have a name that doesn't really mean anything, that it's a fanciful name, like Dolphin. Dolphin means something, but without calling it Dolphin Browser. So a lot of developers were using only their fanciful name, like maybe Dolphin would use only Dolphin. Yes. The question was, would food fast give the same search results as fast food? And I don't know, but I don't think so. I think that they're trying to get very sophisticated in. I think they're using some of the same techniques that they use in web search now, in app search. So to deal with this issue of fanciful names, if you just add meaningful names after your fanciful name in your app to make that, for example, Stitcher is a radio app, and they used to be called just Stitcher. So they've now added Stitcher News and Talk Radio. So the search algorithm now sees, oh, they're a radio station, and they've moved back up in the rankings. So let's see, I think I already talked about these. These are the issues. So how do you, the app name issues and strategies for including app names and quotes if you want to find a specific name, adding plain keywords to deal with abstract names. So a little bit of an overview then of the changes that affect the search ranking is they added the sticky factor in there. They're weighting keywords in the app name now. And there's less emphasis on keywords in the main description. Oh, and on the phone version or the mobile version, they're strategically placing paid apps, and there's, unless you put the word free in your search, like radio stations free, they're going to place paid apps strategically on the list. I guess maybe it's because they're trying to, motivate people to buy more apps. So to try and put all this together, I did a little example, and although this is just one example, I tried to do one that, in my opinion, is indicative of how it's operating in general. Now, since their search algorithm is proprietary, this is my guess at what some of the top criteria are for the way they're ranking search results. The recency of download activity, the total downloads, the rating, the name, and whether it's paid or not. So if you look at the area in red here and you let your eye just fall across that data, see if you can find any correlation with any individual factor with the search results. I can't. If it looks sort of random, the million download app is only number 3. So how they're doing this sorting of the app results is obviously based on some sophisticated algorithm. And if we look at who the winner is here, if I had scrambled these results and said pick out the winner, probably nobody would have picked that app that is at the top. So why is that app up at the top? Now, with my little green check marks over on the right-hand side, I did a very gross indication for what criteria a given app seems to be doing well with. So for the one that came up on top, he only has 10,000 plus downloads, so it's not anywhere near the top of the list of downloads. The rating is a 3.7. It's out of that group, it's the worst rating. It's not a paid app. So what does this app have? Well, the app has recency. So if you look at the recent 30-day squiggly 30-day chart, he's on the upswing recently. But he's got the word coffee in his app, and I'm now noticing now it's first in the name. Whether that means anything to their algorithm, I don't know. But that recency and that app name caused that app coffee guide to move up to the top. Now, in looking at a lot of search results, I did notice that if an app has 250,000 or more downloads, that does seem to have a pretty big impact on that may not move you up to the top, but that'll tend to get you up, move you up in the result. So this million plus download app, one of the reasons they didn't end up at the top is because they don't have the word coffee in their name. Now they've got cafe, which is close but no cigar, and it looks like Google makes an attempt to find words that are similar, and so they seem to understand that cafe and coffee are related. So I also took a quick look at app search on other app markets. This is an iPhone search for coffee, and you'll see that the coffee appears a lot in the names, but not everywhere. I did take a look at these individual apps, and the word coffee appears somewhere in the description, or in some cases in the developer name. I also looked at the Amazon app search, and Amazon does their app search in a way the same as we're all familiar with, the way they do book search and search for all the other products that they handle. And the Windows phone app search, you can see here that it's a little hard to spot correlations. I mean, the #1 app is called Lunchbox, not called Coffee. It has a low rating. So in general, here's the observation I made about the other app markets, is that it's not obvious with any of the app markets exactly how the rankings for search are being done. And it does appear that keywords are being given some significant weight in the names, and that all the app markets are dealing with the same challenges of trying to create relevant and useful results, search results. So putting it all together, I came up with a couple of suggestions for Google. Maybe we can come up with a few more here. One is to make the search filtering, especially on the phone, more robust. So put some search filtering criteria in there. Maybe there could be a switch that, hey, I want to look for an app name that's exactly like what I am typing in. So you put on, you put that switch on. So they have more of that going on the website version, and very little going on the mobile version. Yeah. And my second suggestion is that Google create some kind of password protected forum that developers can participate in and do some communication possibly with Google. It would be easier. Every developer has a password for their account.
There is an Android developer Google Groups, which does a bit like this.
On other groups, yeah.
The Google Groups, the Android developer Google Groups, which is quite this. Maybe not something like this, but.
So you say on the Android developer Google group, yeah, that kind of thing is going on. So that's all I have. Any more questions or comments? Okay, so he's saying that he was just at a Google group meeting with in Paris, was it? In Paris, and there was a representative from the market, and that they're aware of a lot of these issues and trying to make the market better, trying to improve it, which is good to know. What I found in the forum when a lot of these issues were being brought up this last summer is that a lot of the developers were so angry that they were having a hard time participating in a rational discussion of what's going on and how can we adapt to it and figure out how to deal with it. What would be helpful from Google is when they feel like they can disclose certain aspects, is to say, well, this is the way it is. We're now parsing words in the app name, or whatever it is that they're doing. If the developers know that, okay, well, that's being done, then they'll you know, try to adjust and deal with it. But if the developers think it's a bug, then they just keep pounding on the table, fix the bug, and that, you know, that doesn't help anyone. So the question was, does it look like Google or what is Google doing to take action with apps that drain the battery a lot or crash a lot, or, you know, where they have problems? And as we all know, on the iPhone market, they curate that market, and they're much more draconian about what they allow. What Apple is more draconian about what they allow to happen on their market than Google, which leaves it as an open market. It looks to me like they're pretty much leaving it up to the market to deal with those things, so that misbehaving apps will be uninstalled and shunned and not do well. Okay, so the statement was that in the case of malicious apps that are sending out too many messages or taking some, you know, obviously doing some obviously nasty things, they'll take those down. But for the most part, they're leaving it up to the market to sort it out. Right. So the question was, to what extent might inbound links, let's say somebody reviews an app and they put a link, and the link would be to the market.
Right, and the link would be anywhere in the web. They're not specifically in the market. So like at my blog, I can put a link to your app.
Right.
Like just say market at google.com and question mark and then whatever, you know, the actual package name.
Right.
So that would essentially count as an inbound link.
Right. So there can be inbound links linking into your app in the app, so the URL for your app in the app market, right? Like that, right? And is that helping with search results and app placement in search results? I don't think so. We did a series of press releases for our quick-click apps, and they're being picked up by lots of other app markets, and so there's a lot of linking going on. I haven't noticed a correlation. I haven't read about that happening. I haven't noticed it myself. Could they? Well, they can figure out anything they want to figure out, so they could do it, but I haven't noticed it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.